Some positive changes that I've experienced in my life as a result of breaking free from toxic habits. When I ended my pattern of viewing myself as someone that would never find love, when I surrendered, my walls came tumbling down. That is when I found the love of my life, my husband. What advice would I give to someone who's struggling to recognize or overcome their own toxic behaviors? Well, welcome to Toxic-Free with Kate B. I'm your host, Kate B, better known as Kate Middleton. On this show, I talk all about how we can reduce your and my toxic exposure in our everyday lives. On this particular episode, we're actually going to be discussing about how we can all break free from toxic habits. So we're going to discuss how to identify and overcome these personal toxic behaviors. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to identify a toxic habit in your life, my life as well, the benefits of positive change from a toxic habit, and strategies to overcome toxic habits. So let's jump in. Can you basically remember a time that you were put into a situation with a toxic habit and you were like, what? Is this a toxic habit? It feels so kind of shady. I'm going to use the word shady. And you're like, it feels really uneasy. I know I have been put in that situation many of times, but my question is that many people also ask me is, how can you basically define what a toxic habit means to yourself personally, myself personally? So I'm going to give you what I define it as. And it's basically a toxic habit is a repetitive behavior or pattern of thinking that negatively impacts one's mental, emotional, or physical well-being, as well as their relationships, overall quality of life, to an extreme whole. So these habits often undermine personal growth, self-esteem, healthy coping mechanisms, you name it. So I just want you to take a pause. I want you to truly think about that. Think about some examples, some instances. Are they happening currently? Some examples that I know I've dealt with multiple times, and you might agree with me as well, is excessive self-criticism. Seriously, all the time. Hello, I freaking host a show. All the time I'm reviewing these podcasts and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said like so much. Maybe I should have smiled more. That's just to name a very small example. But another one is people pleasing. People pleasing at the expense of one's own needs. I am so guilty of this as well. Procrastination, substance abuse, compulsive overeating, unhealthy relationship dynamics such as manipulation, we all love that buzzword, or codependency, and lack of motivation towards one another. Okay? So codependency, in my personal belief, can be positive in a lot of ways, but when there's lack of motivation, that's when I think it gets really sticky. So reflecting on my past experiences, what are some signs I think that really truly call out to me that might have been toxic for me? Okay. The flaky friend. The flaky friend, y'all, I'm from Kansas. I'm totally from Kansas. Kansas girl. I am loyal. You say be there at 12 p.m. noon for a tea. I will be there at 11:40. Yeah. So I moved to California when I was in my mid-20s. Actually, so we'll go back. I was in college. I finished college. But when I truly moved back out to California, I moved to this great little town. You may know it, called the OC. You know the TV show, right? It's everything that you would have imagined. And I'm like looking around like, I just want to make friends. And so I would have these people come up to me. They're like, yeah, oh my gosh, we should hang out sometime. Sure, great. I'll get my planner out right now and let's plan it. I would make time and time again all of these basically coffee dates, tea dates, walking dates, hangout dates, shopping dates, you name it. I was like, I want to connect with someone right now, right? I mean, you could imagine that, this girl from Kansas, you almost looked like I was like, I don't know, one of those homeless scraggling dogs on the street. But anyways, so I was like, oh my gosh, someone committed to meeting me, right? And I would show up for the coffee date, the tea date. And I was like, over and over again, disappointed. They would not show up or be like, I'm running really late. And then be like, yeah, we ran into some issues, can't come now. So my point in this being that the flaky friend issue was a big thing. And it happened time and time again. So if you have a flaky friend out there, if you feel like you're continuously being the person on one side that's like, I will be there, of course, I will bring cookies, all the things, you're overcommitting, and then the other person never shows up, never even kind of starts to answer your texts again, and you keep reaching out to them, babes, that's a sign. Move on. The best advice that I could give you in that instance is no response is a response in itself. So, okay, back to that. Yeah, I totally get it. The bigger, better deal. But yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. So when someone asked me this question, they're like, well, how do you react in that instance? There was the old KB and there's the new KB. There's the new KB with, which I like to call shark skin, but the old KB was like, no one likes me, I hate this, all the things. The next question that someone asked me was, how do you typically react when someone points out a behavior of mine that they perceive as toxic? Because we all think we're perfect out there, running around in the world, saying the perfect things, acting the perfect way. I'm guilty of this. Until someone says, why don't you think about doing this? Or have you ever thought about not saying that so much? And my immediate thought is, I did something wrong. I'm a horrible person. I have that fear in my gut, right? Often internal and then external defense. So have you ever had a friend that maybe said something to you like, Lisa, I really think you're overbearing. You really bombard all of our conversations and you interrupt me 24/7. You act like a know-it-all. I mean, I feel like not a lot of people are that blunt, but if someone said that to you, how would you react? You would probably be like, I'm a horrible person. No one likes me. But to be honest, if someone says that to you, you should be grateful that they actually called you out. They're saving you. They're totally saving you. A toxic personal trait, not speaking up honestly about how I feel in regards to a situation or sharing my honest opinion, I think truly comes from my complex PTSD, right? My childhood conditioning often leaves reactions such as feelings of shame, not just the fear, but the shame, like the deep shame and feelings of guilt that I probably set upon myself. That's probably why I have the reactions that I have. And so if I could go back to an experience, and we could all relate to this, and a toxic habit that we probably put on ourselves, because certainly feeling shame and guilt could in the end be a result of a forwarded toxic habit if we perpetuate it down the road. So I believe that one in particular, just sharing my lovely story, I believe that particular example stems from being birthed into a house with a narcissistic parent. My internal hunch clearly is and was, I don't want to speak up because I don't want to feel the consequences of this hurt inside if you don't accept my feelings, opinions, viewpoints. I don't want to be a burden, right? So the toxic trait in that, I want you to think about all of this. It's such a web that we have to master, but it's one of those moments that we have to slow down when someone points something out to you. You need to stop. You need to reflect a moment and say, whoa, where is this stemming from? Where is this stemming from? And before I react, I need to truly make sure that I know that the root is flourishing with a beautiful, poised response. Because if not, you're going to perpetuate that action upon you in the future. And you're going to just keep acting the same shitty way inside. The next question someone asked me was, have I ever noticed a pattern in my behavior that consistently leads to negative outcomes in my life or relationships? Oh, this is such a good one because it's so active right now, and I kick myself constantly. When I don't allow myself to, can I use air quotes, please? Rest. Freaking rest. When I don't allow myself to rest, my body eventually will scream at me in some way or another. I start to feel extremely overwhelmed, extremely exhausted. My joints become achy. I start to swell, and I am sore. And when I say sore, I am beyond sore. The saddest thing is that it may actually take me to become injured to finally stop and breathe, which is sad, right? Right now I have sciatica pain. Who in their 30s gets sciatica pain? I mean, I do. I'm an athlete. But also the stress that my body carries, baby girl, you gotta relax. Let that be a little pill for your pill box that you take today. Along with the topic of rest, when I make excuses to myself as to why I have to leave, I have this conversation all the time, why I have to leave yoga and the meditation before Shavasana. If you do this as well, I want you to ask yourself, do I love me? Do I love me? What is more important than my mental health and the regulation of my nervous system right now? What is more important? Priorities are key, right? Priorities are key, and these are keys that you must notice to truly unlock the freedom. So when I do not tend to weeding out the toxic habits that I just mentioned from my garden of life, I love that. My garden of life. I heard that the other day. I become what I like to call my un-me. My un-me. Bitter, unhealthy, negative towards myself, my abilities. I'm frazzled. And frankly, I do not feel like loving myself at that moment. So if you want to talk toxic habits, they spiral. They go down. They go down. You're going down in that deep hole. So remember, priorities are key to notice. Notice what you notice. Take note. What strategies do I use to identify and become more aware of my toxic habits? This goes back to becoming truly self-aware. Here's how. Becoming quiet and meditation. So meditation can be such a vast definition. It can be whatever works for you. Swimming, walking, especially walking without anything in your ears, no noise going in you, just everything around you that you're listening to, the harmony of life, right? Breath work, bath time with candle gazing, petting your fur pup, right? doodling mindlessly. These are just to name a few, right? There's so many out there. Journaling. Journaling is basically my way of talking to myself. It's my way of talking to source. And source can be whatever you believe in. It can be a voice that's speaking to you. It can be a sign, a symbol, a reflection around you. But the way that you hear an answer coming back to you from maybe all the aggravations, all the stressors that you're writing down, you'll have an answer come to you. You just have to be quiet, right? The journaling truly, truly helps. With that, I notice what I notice. I notice if I write and if I rewrite, and maybe even years later on down the road, I fucking rewrite the same shit over and over again, just maybe a different way. Notice if you do that as well. Because if you do that throughout time, you are able to possibly and hopefully uncover those root causes, becoming self-aware. So you can change the patterns. When you recognize these patterns, you're getting to the roots, right? And we all talked about the garden of life. Everyone loves beautiful flowers. There's some beautiful weeds, but we all love the beautiful flowers in the end. The next one is listening. This has been something I've been trying to cultivate and practice for years. And it's not easy because we all want to talk about ourselves. We all want to talk. We all want to make noise. We all want to be recognized. But so do other people. You have to remember this. So when you start to actively listen, and listen especially to the words that come to your head, your mind, this is often when you can better associate the mind and the gut relationship, right? This is when I'm able to understand when my gut is giving me that warning of a toxic habit coming up. And it also gives me warning and cues when I'm becoming more defensive in my conversations ahead, right? Listen to respond instead of reacting. Okay, sharing a specific example of a toxic behavior I've successfully overcome in the past. Okay, so of course there are many, but just to name a couple of many, people pleasing my family members. People pleasing my family members. Now, this is something that my therapist and I have talked circles around. And basically doing this psychotically. I was, what is the Taylor Swift song that says pathological people pleaser? That was totally me. Pathological people pleaser. I'm not, no Tay Swift, but psychotically people pleasing. I was, and still times, had that addiction issue to the expense that I would hold space for my family's emotions, but not allow myself to feel, to truly feel. I held that smiley face to our dysfunctional household, remember, narcissistic parenting, and it was almost like the relationship that we all have to Instagram. The false reality. It's out there. You know what I'm talking about. Everyone's happy. Life is snappy. I didn't mean to rhyme, but that went well. Everyone is happy. There's no bad news on Instagram. There's no bad news. And when something happens, someone out there on Instagram, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That helped me. Applaud you for being truthful. You know, so be honest. But I was a smiley face of the family. Everything is positive behind these walls, folks. See me, I'm smiling. Our family's perfect. I'm happy all the time. I'm comfortable in my bed at night. This is great. Nothing's alarming. I'd go out on the street. Perfect family. And then one day your family just breaks up. Your parents get divorced. People are like, what happened? We didn't know. It's because everything's perfect. But, holding that perfection, it's a big burden in itself. I talked about burdens on its own, but holding that perfectionism is a huge burden. And I had to appear to be perfect. I had to appear to be perfect. I had to give myself, constant praise that, oh gosh, KB, like, you're in charge of this. You got to make sure everyone's okay. You got to make sure everyone is okay. But was I okay? Was I okay? Did I feel safe? The answer is no. Later in life, I figure out no. So it goes back to noticing what you notice. There were truly terrifying moments that I would get yelled at by my father because I broke a storm window. I remember this one instance. I remember it vividly that I think we had our cousins over and I was a bopping around little child, teasing my cousins. And all of a sudden I backed up on our back porch. I backed up and my foot smashed, cracked into a storm drain cover. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And I was terrified. Instead of my immediate thought, and this is so sad to think about, but I didn't think, ow, my ankle hurts, or am I bleeding? I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get yelled at. I'm going to get in so much trouble. So the little KB in me, the little girl, I looked at her in that moment and I see that imagery of her sprinting down the hallway as fast as she can to her bedroom and hiding under her bed because she didn't know what was going to happen. So back to the people pleasing that I experienced in past relationships. The past are in the past, folks. We're moving forward. But saying yes too much. Saying yes when truly the answer was clearly a hell no. No. No, I do not want to enjoy loud, bright, overly obnoxious crowds. Drunk people slurring all over me, maybe spilling their drink on me. And me just standing there like, when do I get to go home? Like, when do I get to have a normal conversation? Am I having another shallow conversation again? Great. This is a perfect use of my Saturday night. Sorry to call anyone out, but baby girl just does not enjoy doing that stuff. But did I say yes to these events time and time again just because I thought a guy would like me? Or maybe ask me out again? Or maybe I thought, my body wouldn't have a social hangover this time. Maybe I wouldn't be totally exhausted the next day. Or maybe, I don't know. Someone would discover me. I've done it all, guys. I've lived in LA. I've done it all. Dating is fucking hard in LA. That's why I left. I mean, if you know, you know. But truth. If you go back to that question of, am I saying yes? Does it serve me in this situation when I really should be saying no and taking care of myself? Trust me, the truth, it only hurts for people that aren't truly supportive of you. The truth does not hurt to people that are on your side or on your team. If you say no and you voice, guys, you know what? I really just need to take some time alone tonight. Or, you know what? That party does not interest me. Or I don't want to eat out. I'm really trying to work on my health and wellness right now. Or guys, you know what? I'm really trying to save some pennies. So I think I'm going to call one out. Or even if you do go out, the truth of saying, yes, I'll go out because you do want to be a part of the social engagement, but I'm going to hang out with you guys. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to eat. I'm just going to chill. Remember, truth is supportive. Okay? So I think when I talk about saying yes instead of no in past relationships, this goes back to setting boundaries, right? Setting my personal boundaries with myself. When you set boundaries for yourself and you uphold them daily, monthly, yearly, time and time again, that shows how other people should be treating you. And believe me, when you do that, people will know they will not overstep those boundaries. Okay? They will never get you to give in. So I would love to remind you that every minute is a new minute. Every minute is a new minute to start over. Okay? Keep that in mind. The path ahead is in the progress you make along the way, not the perfectionism. The next example is kind of embarrassing, and I know I'll be called out time and time again, but I do have my personal reasons for it. My experience that may be toxic to some, may be non-toxic to others. I don't truly think it's toxic, but being maniacally schedule-oriented, maniacally, I love that word. Can I break free from my routine? Yes, certainly. Certainly I can break free from my routine. This morning, I did 100%. Now, does it feel good for me to break free from my scheduled routine of waking up before the sunrise, doing my sunwalk meditation, doing a workout, doing my meditation after that, my yoga stretch, eating breakfast, taking time for myself? Does it feel good? No. Hell no, it doesn't. Everything goes off track, cattywampus. So what are the feelings that arise when I do break free from those routines? Extreme, utter anxiety. I say that with a smile. Extreme anxiety. Structure, I've learned over time, actually sets me free. I know my husband will disagree with me sometimes and say, why don't you just sleep in? Take it easy. Don't do that today. Oh, no, no, no. You know why? Because that is what keeps my mind and my body regulated. That is what keeps me in forward motion. So when we have experiences like that, you're constantly scheduling yourself, you're constantly living to that schedule, recognize that that is a part of you. That truly is a part of you. So it might be toxic for someone because maybe they want to be more disciplined in their life, but truly, if it doesn't feel toxic for you in the end, then it's not toxic. I'm going to give you that out. How do you distinguish between a habit that simply is difficult to break and one that genuinely is toxic to your well-being? I love that someone asked me this question. So the difference between a habit that is difficult to break and one that is genuinely toxic to your well-being. This can be, okay, this is a long answer, but try to stay with me. This can be so crucial, like extremely crucial for your personal growth, for your mental, physical, emotional well-being. So 6 examples I'm going to give you. The impact it has on your well-being, that decision, that habit, whatever it is, the impact that it has on your well-being. Evaluate how the habit affects your mental, emotional, and physical health. Toxic habits, well, they tend to have significant negative consequences. I would say more than just, just like floating through air. That's the example I'm going to say. They have much more significant negative consequences in the end. and especially to your well-being. So in regards to difficult habits to break, I would say they might cause an inconvenience, certainly an inconvenience, or a frustration, like changing your schedule up, but they don't necessarily cause harm to your overall health, especially over time. The next one would be the pattern of behavior. Consider whether the habit is a reoccurring pattern in your everyday life, or if it consistently leads to negative outcomes or conflicts. Toxic habits genuinely perpetuate destructive cycles. A really good example of this would be alcoholism. Perhaps you have a family member, a friend, who has to have a drink every single night. And at first, maybe it started out to be one drink. Then it was like 2, 3. Then they couldn't hang out with you. I mean, hopefully you're not the problem. But then they couldn't hang out with you without you witnessing, oh my gosh, they don't just have one glass of wine. They drank the whole bottle and they're fine until they keep going and they're just a totally different person. You're like, that's not my friend. Or maybe that's not my boyfriend. They're sloppy. They're totally sloppy. And maybe they start to react to you in I'm going to use a really kind word, but a negative way, a destructive way. Okay, here we go. Maybe an abusive way. Maybe they're emotionally, physically, verbally abusive to you. So these are those toxic patterns that can develop over time with that example in mind. And when we talk about difficult to break habits that might occur, they're more sporadic. They're more sporadic or in specific situations. Going back to alcohol. Okay, maybe it was a wedding. And maybe they're like, this is a time of my life. I'm going to go wild. It's my one night to live. Okay, perfect example. The next one would be feedback from others. Are you getting feedback from others? I truly want you to pay attention from your trusted, toxic-free, trusted friends, your family members, or even professionals around you. They can offer extremely valuable insights into basically whether your behavior is harmful or merely just a challenge for you to change, right? Give it time. If multiple people express concerns about this habit, it's truly, truly worth examining much more closely. And then that goes on to personal reflection. Number 4, personal reflection. Engage. It goes back to self-aware. Engage in that self-reflection to understand the motivations and the consequences of this habit that lies ahead of you. Ask yourself whether the behavior aligns with your values and long-term goals. If the habit goes against your core beliefs or causes inner conflict, that is your clue that it may be more toxic than difficult to break. Number 5, it's all about change, right? The attempts it takes to change. Assess your efforts to change the habit. If you have repeatedly tried to break the habit, but find yourself struggling, super struggling, despite all of your sincerest efforts, it might indicate a deeper underlying issue, right? It goes back to the alcohol example. That's just a really great, easy example to use. But if you've successfully changed similar habits is a keyword in the past with much more ease, the current habit might be more toxic in nature, right? So the past one's easy, the current one hard equals toxic. You get my vibe? The next one, the degree of control that you have. Consider how much control you actually have over the habit. Toxic habits often feel compulsive. They feel addictive. You just cannot stop. You're like, give me another square of chocolate. Fuck it. Give me the whole bar. Just kidding. I'm going to the chocolate shop. I'm just gonna, whatever it may be. Right? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, you chocoholics. But is it a true challenge for you to resist or even stop, even when you want to, even when someone points it out to you? A friend, a family member, a child. Think about it. Difficulty breaking a habit, on the other hand, may stem from external factors or lack of effective strategies rather than a sense of the loss of control. Strategies versus loss of control. An example of that would be just ongoing peer pressure. And that goes back to, again, on self-awareness. Are you honoring yourself? Are you honoring your truth? Do you know what your motives are in life? Okay? I was asked, and I love this question so much, what advice would I give to someone who's struggling to recognize or overcome their own toxic behaviors? Well, I like to go by the rule that I don't give unsolicited advice. So my advice would be, I'm not giving you any advice on that, period. I'll send you my podcast link. That's what I would tell them. I'll send you my podcast link. And I want to point out that staying motivated to break free can be so hard. I'm going to say that again. Staying motivated to break free can be so hard. It can be truly hard at times to see the light of pure goodness at the end of the tunnel. But you have the ability. I'm telling you right now, you have all the ability in the world that you can do anything. You can try anything. You can be anything. You have to keep trying. You have to keep building that resilience to build the strength within your confidence that you can, as I said before, do, be, succeed at anything, whether it's a toxic trait, whether it's running for president, right? Someone's got to do it. Your past does not write your future. Some positive changes that I've experienced in my life as a result of breaking free from toxic habits, and this is the biggest. I only have one clear one that comes to my mind. The biggest is that when I ended my pattern of viewing myself as someone that would never find love, when I surrendered to the universe and didn't hold myself back, I didn't hold my rigid boundary up anymore. My walls came tumbling down. That is when I found the love of my life, my husband. Serious, guys. Serious. Surrender. Sometimes you just have to surrender and let the universe guide you. You never know what could happen if you just give yourself a little bit of faith that you can do, be, and change and rewrite your story. Looking into the future, what steps do I plan? This is a good question that we can all implement. But what steps do I plan to take to ensure that I continue to prioritize my mental and emotional well-being by avoiding toxic behaviors and habits? All right, guys, this is a thinker, but I think it comes back to challenge. Challenging yourself to, first of all, begin a new habit. Try something out. Try it on. Try it on again. Try it on in a different way, right? You write that definition. And I want you to recognize when you try it on, how do you feel after you tried it on? Is it good? Is it great? Is it icky? Is it hard? Is it sticky? No. Then move past it. Maybe that's not the little pinpoint that you want. An example of that would be perhaps you perhaps you want to start working out and you're like, shoot, better start signing up for a marathon and training. No. Guys, baby steps. Baby steps. Remember, you want to start working out? Go for a walk. Maybe stand up more when you work. Maybe get 10,000 steps in a day. Okay, get 20,000 steps in a day. Whew, that's overzealous, but you can do it. And then maybe turn those walks into a run. Remember, it's all about the baby steps. With this, give yourself time. Give yourself time. Give yourself patience. Give yourself kindness along the way. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always been an honor and a pleasure. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, you're doing your best, and your best is great. Until next time, ciao. All right, folks, it's time for hot habits. My hot habit for today is warm water, lemon, and ginger. Specifically in the morning, right? I know, I'm totally one of those cliche people, but it's been doing me so well. Why do I do it? Folks, hydration. I dry up like a motherfucking prune in the middle of the night. I wake up and it's horrible. My husband's like, why do you put so much goop on you in the middle of the night? I go to bed wet. Seriously wet. I mean, if you wanted to give me a hug, you would slide right off of me. But why I do warm water and lemon and ginger in the morning is, first off, hydration. But it also reduces the acidity within yourself. It makes you purely alkaline. Okay? It helps remove the waste. And we all know that when waste is stored up in our bodies, we're forming toxins. Oh my gosh. So I was reading this book one time. And it was saying Elvis Presley, I think, was it Elvis Presley? He died, and when they found him, they did his autopsy, and he had 50, or don't quote me, 50 pounds of toxic waste stored within him. 50 pounds. Gross. So I would say try this toxic-free hot habit. Let me know what you think. The trendy trend that I want to mention for you today is, I can't believe this, at-home IV therapy. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? Sticking needles within you and just pumping some shit inside of you. It's all good. It'll make me feel good. Everyone on Instagram said it was great. All the celebrities are doing it. They had them at music festivals. My point. In 2022, IV drip therapy flourished. It completely flourished with the celebs and at stations like at Coachella and other music festivals. And a lot of people were quoting, I'm putting NAC inside of me. I'm going to feel great. I'm never going to age. I think it was 2 celebs. I'm not going to call them out, but they did have a conversation, I think, on a reality show. I think it was a Kardashian. Okay, I'm going to call them out. It was the Kardashians. It was Kendall Jenner and Hailey Bieber sitting on the couch, and they were doing an NAC IV drip. I will never forget this episode. And I think Hailey Bieber said, I'm never going to get old. Boom. The market skyrocketed, I bet. So think about that one. But the big problem with this, doing IV home therapy, is that, or even at a music festival, is lack of regulation. Lack of regulation. So how do you actually know that what is going within you is potentially toxic or potentially a harmful dose? You're not the expert. You're not the professional. You're not seeing the vials, right? You're not asking about third-party, credentials here. So what truly is the mix at hand? And is it truly serving you? My advice because I love giving unsolicited advice. But if I were to guide you on this, I would say, folks, I plan on always skipping the drip. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this fun and festive little episode, and send it to a friend, a family member, an anonymous email. And remember to follow me, send in your cues on Instagram at toxicfree.kb. And remember to subscribe and like over on YouTube. We'll see you there on the tube. Toxic Free with KB. Love y'all.
This is a Kilo Bravo Media production, brought to you by Rainbow Creative.